So, good evening. Check, check, test. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you hear me now?
So, good evening.
Awesome. Yeah, good. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Hope you're well. Had a great week. Had a good Thanksgiving. I did. And it's Tuesday night, so time for our live stream. As per usual, we'll kind of drag our feet a little bit. Not many RV questions come in, but it's November. Not a lot of people out RVing right now, except snowbirds that are headed south. So, anyway, I had a few people check in early. Richard Kirby is in. Rich is buying Rusty the RV. So, good evening, Rich. And it looks like Rick C is in. Hi, Rick. And John Besmick from Michigan. He sounds like they got a little snow. We've had, we had 3 50-degree days in a row. It was 46 today. And I was outside and did some work. You get to see a little preview of all the water damage here in just a little bit on tonight's stream. But we'll wait for a few more folks to join up. I'm expecting a delivery anytime now, probably tonight here, sometime within the next hour, according to the tracking of a special package. So hopefully that'll show up, and then maybe I'll share that with you. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'll just leave you in suspense. So yeah, I had a great Thanksgiving, went up to some friends and pigged out and came home and slept. Watched a little football, I guess. Well, slept mostly. But yeah, that was the bulk of my Thanksgiving. And then the weekend, actually Friday was really nice. And just a minute here, I was just checking a couple things here. Make sure my connection quality is good. It looks like it's great. But yeah, the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, Friday was so-so. Saturday, Sunday, and yesterday were great. I mean, it was 57 degrees was the high yesterday, and that's on the 30th of November. So, yeah, it's unusually warm. Tom Downey's in. Hello, Tom, from Washington via Texas, or Texas via Washington. I don't know what you'd say, but he's in. Good to see you in there tonight, Tom. Be sure and drop a comment over in the chat window if you're so inclined, and let us know where you're watching from. I know that a lot of folks, they watch, but they're not logged into YouTube. I get emails frequently, and that's just fine. I love hearing from you. So if you're not a YouTuber or Facebook or any of that kind of stuff, I totally get it. But you can email me at trbolin@gmail.com, and I'm happy to get back to you. Hi, Larry McBride, long time. 70 plus there in Arkansas. Yeah, I was chatting with my dad today, and yeah, he said it'd been nice. So he's still he had to mow his lawn, but he said it was the last time till next spring. So I'm guessing that's probably a good thing. Yeah, so where was I? Oh yeah, we were talking about the weather and killing time, waiting for a few more people to come in to get started on things. I did hear from a fellow via email who said David was his name, David O. He says, I do not log into YouTube, nor do I use Facebook, Twitter, etc. I do begrudgingly. I do watch your RV help and Q&A videos, though, and I'm currently restoring an S&S camper. I feel for you. They are good campers, nearly bulletproof, but I have heard of problems with bubble windows. Anyway, for parts for older RVs like the S&S, he told me to try All Seasons Fun in Marsing. And then also there's a door company, a company over in Emmett, Idaho, that builds RV doors. And I appreciate that. If anybody would like those links, let me know, and I'll be happy to share them with you. In fact, I think maybe I could do that right now. So if you're looking for an RV door, you can check this one out, Emmett door. And I don't have a link for All Seasons Fun in Marsing, but I'll dig one up, and I might have to go to them for parts. So far, I've been really lucky, and I found all the parts I need, either from RecPro, which I think I mentioned last week. We were talking about good, reliable online companies to buy RV parts from, and RecPro came up. And I am a affiliate with RecPro now, and you'll get a 5% discount. I'll get a small commission for everything you buy. You pay the same price you would whether you shop through my link or not. Actually, you don't pay the same price. You pay 5% less. And the checkout code for that special is TRBolin, and that'll be going from now until whenever. Excuse me. It's not a short-term thing. It's a long-term thing. We'll be doing that with them for a long time. Tom Downey says he's in Canyon Lake, Texas, and it's 77 degrees. Wow. Yeah, it's about 40. Judy Kimbrough. Hi, Judy. Yes, RecPro. Very good company. Very reliable. It is 42 here. Headed lower. Robert Black 1911's in. Hey, great to see you and everyone. I hope you're all having a great evening. We are. Indeed, having a super evening. Again, I'm expecting a delivery any second now of a Black Friday special that I ran across, and hopefully it'll show up here in just a minute, and I won't be worried about interrupting the live stream for the next hour. But I've made some decent progress on the truck camper. Boy, I'm sure loading up. I was outside in the wind all day. My eyes are burning out of my head. I ate a lot of dust, and so I'm really clogged up today. But yeah, I tore into the truck camper pretty seriously over the last couple days, and I've got. I guess that's one benefit of being on the live stream is you get sort of a preview, because the footage I'll share with you here in a little bit won't be seen on my, in the renovation series for probably 2 or 3 weeks anyway. So you get a little sneak peek. Before I share that, though, I got Randy Waller in. Hi, Randy. Great to see you in. We were chatting about a muddy job site because of the snow they got in Michigan. And yeah, I built my house, not the one I'm in now, but another one that I built, what was it? Gosh, 20 years ago now? Has it been that long? Yeah, it has. 20 years ago over in Shoshone, Idaho, well, near Shoshone, when I was working up in the Haley Sun Valley area. And I built it over the winter, and it was a little muddy. I actually ended up having to call and get 3 loads of gravel brought in and dumped in the driveway just to get contractors in and out. I contracted it myself. I was the GC, the general contractor, and I did all my own electrical, and then I contracted out everything up to when the sheetrock was done, and then did cabinets, had friends come in and help, tons of friends. I even had a friend from Idaho Falls drive the 130 miles to come over and help me for a couple days. I also had another very old friend of mine that came over from Boise, Carpet Lair, who laid all the carpet for me. And yeah, so it was a real family effort, if you will. Sorry, somebody's at the door. Give me 1 second. Be right back. Hooray, they're here. So, what do you think it is? Plain brown box, no markings on it. Oops, maybe you should have seen that side. It's Christmas time, early Christmas for TR. So, any guesses on what it is? I'll give you a minute. Let me put it back over here. Just get it out of the way for a second. I got two of them if that helps. Make your guess over in the chat window. I'll chat with whoever's in. Robert Black, 1911. It's very rewarding to fix things with your own hands. You really appreciate it down the road. You sure do, John. I mean, Robert. Yeah, definitely. John Vesmick. Oh, I have HERH thermopane windows in my 95 Navigator. Is there any place to replace the bad panes? You know, if you can find a local glass company, oftentimes they can do the RV windows. They don't like to, okay? But they can do them, and they can even recharge them with argon or whatever the gas might be between the dual panes. But yeah, a local glass company sometimes will do them. You might have to call around a little bit. You might have to pay a few extra bucks. Yeah, so that's probably what I would try to do. Otherwise, I don't. RecPro doesn't do windows. You know, I'll do a little research and see what I can come across on that, John. Okay. Bob Woodward. Also, can I recommend a good electric space heater for our fifth wheel? Propane costs are killing us. Yeah, propane's really expensive this year. The Vornado. That one right there. This one is the sorry, I'm looking for a model number for you. This is the type AVH2 digital. I happened to get that one at Costco. I happened to see that Costco had it on sale, but I heated my RV with it, and it did quite a good job, and it's fairly small. Now I heated the front. My RV, I could close the door off between the bedroom and the living space, and so I would close that door off, and that Vornado would keep the space warm perfectly. Now that was in Tucson, and the weather, you know, I mean, we'd get 30-degree nights, 35-degree nights, stuff like that. It wouldn't get real cold. So I would recommend that one, Bob, for sure. Oh, maybe time for a cheap plug. And if you're so inclined, you can pick one up on my Amazon store. I don't know if I have it in there, but if you just visit my Amazon store, there's a link in the description of this video. And then you can go pick up their Vornado or whatever you want. I'll get a small commission. You'll pay the same price, and you'll help out the channel a little bit. So that's really, really nice if you would do that. But if not, no sweat. Get the Vornado. You'll be happy. Bernard McIerney. Hi, Bernard. We have a new travel trailer, and our GFCI keeps popping off when using my coffee pot. And only the pot. The breaker does feel hot after it pops. How old's the coffee pot? Is it like a percolator? Is that what you're talking about? Like a Mr. Coffee or one of those? First question. The second question is, how old is it? Is the GFCI kicking off as soon as you turn it on or after it's been on for a while? Follow up with me on those questions, and we'll see what we can do for you. Randy, you might be right. You're going to have to wait a minute. Randy says batteries. Two Feathers. Hi, Two Feathers. Great to have you here. Something heavy. Electric jacks. Good try. Greetings from Humboldt County. Bob Davis. Great to have you in tonight. You're welcome, John. Food Porn Chef. Watching from San Diego. I thought you were going to be in Quartzsite or out there in the desert somewhere over at Parker. Anyway, he says, we'll be doing the Victron Energy Solar class in the next 2 days with the certification also. Yeah, and I miss you all so much. Cool. That's great, Food Porn Chef. I'm happy to hear that. I'm going to need some stuff. some Victron gear. I've been shopping around, and I need a DC to DC charge controller. I need a solar charge controller, and I need a shunt. I've been looking at, of course, Victron, because I have used Victron gear and love it. It's the best you can get. Yeah. Bob Davis, I did get the picture you sent in email, and I totally forgot to respond to you. I am very sorry. Gary Sharp, now in southern Mansfield, Texas. Yeah, I got out of the winter, huh? Bernard McKierney says the pot is new, Mr. Coffee. And the G, does it trip off? Let's see if you answered. Does it trip off instantly when you turn on the pot, or does it trip off after it runs for a while? Bob Woodward says, my first question didn't post. PR, I wanted to ask my opinion, your opinion, on leaving the valves open so the tanks can flow free into the holes, or should close them off and only open when to drain. Open them to drain. Only open them to drain. Okay? Now, with a grain of salt there. In the winter, when I would park for winters in Tucson, I would generally leave my gray tank open and just let it drain. And then about every 2 to 3 weeks, I would go out and I would close the gray tank and fill it, and then go flush both tanks. Flush the gray or dump the black tank, dump the gray tank at the same time. You don't ever want to leave your black tank open, okay, except when you're dumping it. What can happen is that the solids will build up on the sides of the tank and really create a problem. If you've not gone and watched the video on my channel, how to eliminate smells in your RV, it's my black tank maintenance video. You'll find it in my RV how-to playlist. I recommend that you go watch that, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. But you never want to leave the black tank valve open. You always want to fill it as full as practical before you flush it, okay? But go watch the video, and you won't be sorry. I'll pick up a link here for you real quick, so you won't have to go spend a lot of time searching for it. But yeah, you need to watch that video, because it's going to explain to you how those tanks work and all of that. And here we go. I'll have it here for you in just a second. I sure miss Aaron not being here, but that's cool. I totally get he is busy and doing some of his own things. So there's the video to easily get rid of black tank smells in your RV, and you can go watch that. You'll get a real good education on what's going on with your black tank and why you should never do that. Now on the gray tank, like I said, I would leave it open, and I would pump, I'd probably dump my black tank 2, 3, 4 times, something like that. And then I would close both valves, and I'd fill the gray tank, and then I would dump it out. That helps keep it flushed out. There's not so many solids that go into your gray tank. And you should have a strainer in the sink anyway, right? You should have some kind of a sink strainer to keep most of the solids out of your gray tank. It'll keep it working longer, better. But yeah, if you'll go watch that video, Bob, you will get your understanding of why you don't want to leave those open. Okay, hope that helps. Okay, but Bernard McKierney, this pops off 2/3 of the way through. When it goes off, sometimes it won't reset. Okay, so and you said it's hot. Now, when you say the breaker is hot, you mean the circuit breaker or the GFCI plug outlet itself? My guess is that that coffee pot is probably pulling really close to 15 amps. And that's probably a 15 amp GFCI. And the other thing is oftentimes, well, most of the time, that GFCI will be feeding other circuits in the RV. And so not only is it just the coffee pot that's pulling electricity, But you might have a TV or maybe a space heater or something like that down the line, and it may be on the same circuit as that GFCI. So my guess is that you've got something plugged in there, and there is a too much of a draw, and it's causing that GFCI to trip. Because not only will they trip due to a ground fault, they'll trip if they get too hot. And that's my guess, is that you got more than 1500 watts, more than 15 amps approximately, going through that GFCI, or 20 amps. If it has a T-shaped plug-in hole, that's a 20 amp. If it has a straight a straight hole, if you will, that is a 15 amp. So let's see what's in the box. I think everybody knows, but let's have a live unboxing here just for fun. Let me put this down here so we don't screw things up. Oh, it's so pretty. How do I get it out of here? Look at that. This is the Battleborn GC2 12 volt 100 amp hour lithium battery. And let me get my camera set back up right here so there's no shiny on it. Oh, we'll get there. It's supposed to be a blem. There was a sale that a channel I watch Morton's on the Move. I like Tom Morton a lot. He's an electrical geek. He put a Tesla battery in his fifth wheel. He's done all kinds of fun stuff. They don't know me. I don't know them. But he does really good stuff. I really appreciate his channel. And he had posted a deal going on with Battleborn on the GC2s, well, on all the batteries. And it's supposed to be a blem. So in other words, there's some imperfection in the case somewhere. But I sure don't see anything. And they were $250 cheaper than the non-blem. Oh, there it is right there. It's got a little scratch on it right there. How ridiculous is that? But I saved $250 and there's two of them. I got another one sitting out there in the living room. Let me put this over here. So those are normally like $9.49, and I got those for $6.75, free shipping, and I ordered them on Saturday, and here it is Tuesday. Of course, they're in Reno, and so that's easy 2 days from FedEx. This came in FedEx, so. Yeah, now I've got that. I actually bought solar panels. Renogy was having a deal on their 100-watt solar panels, and so I picked up my solar panels. And as I was mentioning the Food Porn Chef, I need the smart shunt, and then I need a 12-volt, a DC to DC charge controller, and a solar charge controller, and then. I mentioned earlier in my intro video, sorry, I sort of lost my camera angle there, didn't I? There we go. I mentioned in my intro video for the truck camper that there was no inverter. All there is a small charger in there, just enough to charge the battery when you're on 110. And so I need an inverter charger, and I think I found a Renogy. The problem with Victron is they don't make a small inverter charger. They make a 1,000-watt inverter. I don't need 2,000 watts in a truck camper. I need 1,000, 1,500. So, and then I need to get an inverter charger, and then I should be good to go. All right, I'm gonna go back and check up on the comments here. Food Porn Chef, he says he did Parker for 2 weeks and then had to come back here for his Victron certification class, then to Yuma, and then back up for RTR. That's a rubber tramp rendezvous. That's up at Quartzsite. Sorry about that. I threw some wood on the fire. It's kind of crackly in there, isn't it? Can you hear that? Oh yeah, you can hear that. Okay, so good. Robert Black, I just got a 100 amp hour lithium battery and added a Victron shunt and battery sense to go with my MPPT 150, and it's great. That's a good setup. It is a very good setup for sure. Tom Downey, low voltage. That's a good one, Tom, and that's something that a lot of people overlook. And in RV parks, boy, is that annoying. I guess I won't do that again when I'm on the live stream. That is hilarious. Anyway, low voltage in RV parks is a real problem. And I actually, if you watch my the sales video for Rusty, you might remember that I have some power monitoring in there, some AC power monitoring. And that's a good point, because when the voltage drops, the actual amount of amperage, I'm cutting my head off here. Sorry, you get to see my palm about 5 times in this video. The amperage actually goes up. So I don't want to get into some heavy duty math with you, but here's the long and short of it. You have 100 volts of 15 amps gives you 1,500 watts. 120 volts at 15 amps gives you 1,600 watts. And so if the voltage is lower, to get 1,500 watts, the amperage has to be higher. And I got a couple of comments here on the tripping breaker. John Besmick says on Bernard's coffee pot could be a loose wire connection. That could cause it, but Bernard, he writes back, I think it's a 15 amp GFCI, but this pot is very basic. I think with the calculations, it should be about 7.5 amps. There is nothing plugged in anywhere in the RV. Well, low voltage could be one thing. Have you tried something else in that outlet? Like maybe a space heater, or like a hair dryer if you don't have a space heater. Have you tried something else? But you said the breaker gets hot. I thought I saw another comment. Yeah, the breaker gets hot. Something's drawing more than its fair share of amperage. I would suspect that coffee pot. I mean, if that's the only thing plugged in there. But are you absolutely sure? Because they'll trick you. Like in my 40-footer, my Newmar, the GFCI was in the kitchen, but there was an outlet clear over on the other side up at the front of the coach by the driver's seat that was on that GFCI. But yeah, that's weird. Then the only other option is it could be a bad GFCI. That GFCI might be old, failing. You might just have to replace that GFCI. But I would try something else in that outlet first. Something that draws about 7.5 or 15 amps. A space heater would be perfect. And then Tom, I just saw. I'll jump back and cycle in comments, but I just saw Tom comment. Read the voltage. Yeah, if you're comfortable with that, got a voltmeter, just read the voltage at the outlet and see how many volts you've got at that outlet. It should be 120, okay, down to 100. Well, when they say 120, it's plus minus 10%. But yeah, you should be getting at least 110 volts in that outlet. And if you're not, you know, there could be something else there. But the first thing I would do is find myself a space heater or something like that, plug into that outlet, and see if it trips off. And if it does, then I suspect that it's probably just a bad GFCI. Two Feathers asks, what is the lifespan of a lithium battery? It varies. The Battleborns that I just got are guaranteed to give you 80% of capacity at 5,000 cycles. That's 10 years. So they're basically saying their batteries are good for 10 years. Now, as far as batteries go, I shopped. I mean, I looked around a lot. Lion Energy, who had reached out to me last year wanting to do a collaboration, you know, having to do an affiliate thing, do a collab. I reached back out to them and said, hey, are you still interested? I didn't hear back from them. I did see where Costco had 2 of their 100 amp hour batteries on sale for $13.99 plus tax. I looked at the Renogy batteries, and you know, they're all about the same price, give or take. But then I saw the blem sale and had Battleborns in my Class A and loved them, and so why not? Now, I will have to do some modifications to the battery doors, or to the battery compartment. It's just barely tall enough, but it's not quite wide enough. I need about 15 inches because there'll be 2 of them sitting in there side by side. And so I'm gonna have to pull all the skin off the camper anyway. Well, I'll show you that real quick. Here's your benefit of toughing it out. And whoops, just a minute here. I goofed up again. Not the last time, I'm sure. I got to get this guy over here, and now we'll bring this guy back up. I guess here's your benefit of being on the live stream is you'll get a sneak peek about 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So yeah, there's some of the skin coming off. If you look right here, just to the right of the, the left of the propane tanks, you can see that rot is down into that corner. The opposite side is rotted in that same corner. This sill plate here, right in here, is pretty rotten. Can you see my cursor here? So this is rotten. This is a little bit rotten back here, but I'm not sure where this came from because looking up in here, it doesn't look like it was leaking very bad at all. So this might just have been a leak right in this seam right here. Can you see where my mouse is? You know, where my little pointer is here? Now what you're seeing here, if you remember the little preview I shared with you last week of me cutting up that wood, that's just some of that pallet wood that came off the monuments that I put under there just temporarily. 1, to keep it dry, but 2, I needed some way to support the camper so I could take the jacks off of it. Now you'll see the jacks back on here, and I'm going to leave it on there until I'm ready to do more work with it. But there was a piece of trim right underneath this ledge right here that I had to get off to be able to get to the side piece here and get it off. Let's spid forward here a little bit. Again, this is raw footage, not been edited. This is just stuff that's been prepared, you know, for my YouTube channel for a video coming up later. But now you can really see the damage in that corner. And so I do have my work cut out for me, that's for sure. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little sneak preview. That video will run, well, you'll see that footage here in about 2 to 3 weeks. This Sunday's video I just finished today, and that's going to be the project list. So I'll be going through all of the items that I need to take care of on it. It's significant. I shared it with you last week a little bit. I had about 54 items on it. So, yeah, I got a lot to do, but I got quite a good start on it, and I think I'll get another good day's work in maybe tomorrow, and maybe one more Thursday, and then it's supposed to haul off and get crappy. So it'll probably end up tarped until the weather cooperates, and that might be spring. Who knows? Let me cycle back over to the questions here. John Besmick asks, my coach has 4 6-volt and 2 12-volt. Just retiring. Is that something you'd recommend? Well, that's typical of Class A's and Class C's, is to have 4 6-volt batteries, which gives you a net of around 220 amp hours. Because remember, in a lead acid battery, you can really only use half the capacity before you start to damage it. So the typical 6-volt battery like that will be about what are they, 220 amp hours, something like that. Depends on the battery. I might be speaking off the top of my head too far, but yeah, 220, 440. Okay, yeah, that's right. So you'll take the 2 6-volts and put them in parallel, each of those in parallel, and that gives you a 12-volt. Because remember, when you tie batteries in parallel, the amperage is additive, the voltage is the same. When you put the batteries in serial, in other words, you connect positive to negative, the voltage is additive and the amperage is the same. Now the way that works out is you take the two 6-volt batteries, 220 amp hours each, and you parallel those together, and that gives you you serial those together, that gives you 12 volts. Then you take those 2 6 volts and you think of it like a 12-volt battery, okay? Just because there's 4 terminals there, don't worry about that. You take that 12-volt battery, you've got 2 more 6 volts that you've serialed together, plus to minus, and you parallel those, plus to plus, minus to minus. So essentially what that gives you is one 12-volt, 220 amp hour battery, approximately, okay? Sorry, it sounded like somebody might be at the front door again. Let's see if they were just kids door knocking or what. Anyway, so you end up with 220 amp hours of 12-volt power. What I did in my RV was I took the 6 volts out and I put 4 12 volts in, and I just paralleled them. So in other words, I have 4 100 amp hour batteries like those you saw there, only they're the classic RV battery style, not the GC2s like those were. The same exact capacity, it's just the form factor is different of the battery case itself. Anyway, so if you can, like I did with mine, I went from 220 amp hours of lead acid batteries to 400 amp hours of lithium, and it totally changed my life. I mean, 400 amp hours of my coach was perfect. I never worried about having power, especially with the solar and everything else I did to the coach. I never had to worry about power ever. Especially in the summer. Now in the winter, you got to be a little bit more careful. The sun's not as high in the air. You don't get as much sunlight. There's a bunch of other factors that we could talk about at another time if you like. Gracie Seeking Adventures, great to have you here. She asks, I have a Class C 31-foot Itasca Sundancer. Went to winterize it this past week. There is not a bypass valve switch for water heater. You really need to get one and put it in, and they're not that difficult, to be honest with you. You can get them on Amazon. They're fairly inexpensive, and in fact, I thought I saw a couple years ago, I had a friend of mine ask me for one, then I went and looked for it. I thought I found one that had a winterizer kit with it, so it would bypass the water heater, and then you could winterize the coach with another valve and hose. But that's, I guess, not all that unusual. But yeah, you should probably put one in, because if you don't and you're winterizing, that means you got to put 6-10 gallons of antifreeze in that water heater, and you don't want to have to do that. So yeah, you probably really want to get one of those installed, Gracie, or have one installed, or do it yourself. It's not that difficult. Yeah. So she comes back. Oh, the next part of her comment was, so we just drained all the lines, left faucets open, and poured the fluid down into the P-traps. Am I missing something? Yes. Do you have low point drains? I'm assuming you do. The problem is, Gracie, is that pipe, at some point, there's going to be a little sag in it or a little loop in it. And so even though you've drained all the water out of that, there's still going to be water clinging to the sides of the pipe, the walls of the pipe. That water is going to run down and accumulate in those sags. And if there's enough, it could freeze and break a line. More likely, it will break a fitting. Okay, PEX pipe, you got to freeze it pretty hard to get it to break. But those plastic fittings that they use on these pipes, they break in a second. So, yeah. Now, there's another thing you can do. I wish Tim was here, because Tim Myers is one of our normal or regular guys. He's probably out camping somewhere. But he uses air. You can there's a small fitting that has an air chuck on it, a Schrader valve, if you're familiar with that, like you would find on a bicycle or a car tire, that you can screw into the freshwater outlet and then use air to blow out the lines. But again, I argue that even if you do air, there's going to be a little bit of water that lays in those pipes. It's all going to drain to a low spot, and if enough gets in there, it could freeze and break the pipe. Not likely the pipe, again, but it could. But it's more likely it'll break a plastic fitting. Like the corner, the elbow fitting for your toilet, is if I've broken that myself for not running enough water into my toilet to get it to flush out, or to get it winterized. So yeah, you really probably ought to look into getting that, or putting one on in yourself. They're not real expensive. It's not really difficult. It's a matter of cutting a hose, using a couple hose clamps, and you should be in good shape. But yeah, it's not difficult at all. But definitely, you need to. Somebody's at the door. Hang on, sorry. I guess they think I need to get a little religion on Tuesday night. Sorry about that. Okay, back to the comments. Oh, Gracie says she loves the sound of fire. Yeah, I do too. It's a nice, it's a nice ambiance, isn't it? Richard Kirby, it's the middle of the morning for him. He's in Germany. The poor guy's so excited. Oh, that's great. I'm glad to have you in, Rich. He says, I bought a GPS and camera on a Black Friday sale. I received my stuff in 2 days. I'll be lucky if I get mine in 30. Thank you, USPS. Yeah, that's the problem, I guess, with APO addresses, right? And the fact that they're slowing down the whole post office, it seems like. GroupJet, hiya. Great to have you in tonight. Bernard. He says, this is regarding his GFCI. I bought a new pot and still the same. We have 5 GFCI plugs in here. Thanks, I'll try something else in there and a meter as well. Thank you for all your help. Hey, try the coffee pot in one of the other GFCIs if it's convenient. Yeah, you might have to haul it in the bathroom and put it on the counter. But try it in that. And if it trips that GFCI, then it's definitely the coffee pot. But if that doesn't trip the GFCI, then it could be something else. But yeah, I would try that outlet, and then since you have so many GFCIs, try that coffee pot in another one and see if it does the same thing. stack them. Tom Downey says stack them over and under. I would, but two problems there. One, I want short a cable as possible. Okay, that's best practice. And two, I have more width space than I have tall space. If you look right there close to it, let me flip you back over here and I'll show you. Whoops. Oh, you can't quite see it. Never mind. Let's see. Hang on. I'll flip back here just a minute. I don't think I flipped you over anyway, but let me get a different shot up here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Just a moment. Yeah, I don't have the height, Tom, to stack them. So let's see here. There we go. This will work. Let me flip over here and let you see this side. This is actually a time lapse I shot of me cleaning up the sides. But you see, here's the battery compartment, and then here's the fridge. So behind here is a closet. I suppose I could go taller, but I don't want a big tall door there to start with. And then, but I only need to go about 6 inches wider. The height is fine, so I have plenty of height, just barely. But I need about really 4 inches. But I'm going to have to go with a 16 by 16 door. And to do that, I'm going to have to enlarge that opening a little bit. What you see me doing there is I'm cleaning up all the lap sealant, the butyl tape off of all the outside enclosures there. Scrape it all off, and then I wiped it all down with lacquer thinner, mostly because I felt like, and I'm sure this is true, that it would be easier to clean it up with it on the wall of the RV than trying to clean it up with it laying on the ground. And I want to get it cleaned up as much as possible before I have to reassemble. I don't want to have to make a mess cleaning it up after I try to reassemble it. And so yeah, I could stack them, but that would make the cables longer, and I want as short of cables as possible. You'll see when I do the project video this weekend on Sunday. If you catch that, Tom, you'll see kind of what my ideas are. GrooveJet asks, do I know a good way to identify a tiny SMD transistor on a charger PCB which is burnt up? It's for a light I have in the camper. Also, a SMD resistor is totally burnt. Unless you have a rework tool, it's impossible to resolder SMDs. A rework tool, well, I have one. I can't show it to you because it's out of reach. But a rework tool is not a soldering iron, but it's a hot air gun. Essentially what it does is it blows hot air. And that's the only way I know of to replace SMDs. The second is if they're blown up and the number's not on them, then it's really difficult to figure out what they were. I hate to be a pessimist, but yeah, SMDs, especially transistors and resistors, unless you can read the number on them, I don't know a good way to identify what they were, unless you can find a schematic somewhere. Or unless you're really good at electronics, you could work out the circuit. You might look at, there's a channel out there called Big Clive. He's from England, but he's a maker, kind of take aparter. And then there's the guy out of Australia. What's his name? But I watch him too. Both of those guys are really good electronics geeks, and I enjoy their channels. But yeah, that's difficult. Ron Bunge is in. Hi, nice to see you in. He says, oh my God, TR, is there no project that you won't go after? First, my house, now redoing a truck camper. I can't even imagine what you're attempting. Hey, I got to stay busy. Okay, otherwise, what did they say? What did my mom always say? Idle hands are the devil's workshop. I got to stay busy, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy the work. I enjoy the working things out. I enjoy tearing into old, if you've been watching my channel a while, or you can go back and see, what this room looked like before I took it apart and painted it. It was pretty rough in here. nasty old carpet, grandma curtains, definitely a 1980s dated house. So I love doing it. Sorry. I enjoy it. It's a good time. Hi, Camp Goer One. Linda, long time. Great to have you in. Linda says, I got to get solar. I put cameras on the ring kind in my RV in the yard. The damn neighbor kids hit my RV with their basketball. Yeah, neighbor kids. Get off my lawn. Oh, Robert Black, thank you so much for the super chat. The Parts Fund appreciates it greatly, and so do I. Tom, he says, not if you blow it out well enough. We are back to talking about Gracie's question about is just draining the lines enough. Um, yeah, I still disagree. Tim Myers and I, you might remember, I don't know, maybe that was in a chat we had last week, a pre-chat we had before the live stream started. But yeah, all it takes is one little low spot or one little elbow, and that's where that break is going to happen. I'll guarantee you. This is the voice of experience talking here. Not to argue with you though, Tom. I think if you blew it out very well and you were very persistent about it, you'd probably be okay. I mean, it works with lawn sprinklers, right? I mean, those of us that live in cold climates get our sprinkler systems. I wish I had a sprinkler system. Get the sprinkler system blown out every fall before, it freezes. Camp Gora 1 asks, does foam around the pipes help? To a certain extent, depending upon how cold it gets. Yeah. Depending upon how cold it gets, it can help. I would say down to probably 10 to 15 degrees, you're probably, reasonably okay. But if you get, if it gets below that, a foam around the pipes isn't going to help. You definitely, and I see that Gracie is asking for a valve. Gracie, hang on with us to the end. I'll take just a moment. We'll jump over to Amazon. And we'll see if I can find that winterization kit that had the bypass in it for you. Because I think that's your best bet. Also, by the way, what's the coldest overnight temperatures that you might be seeing, Gracie, where you're at? Ron says, RL Bunge, sorry. A lot of these folks, like Camp Goer Ones, Linda, RL Bunge is Ron. He just had gravel delivered for the driveway and next to our garage where we store our RV. Is parking on the gravel okay, or do I need to put boards or something else underneath the tires? No, it's fine to park on gravel. In fact, it's good. But of course, you want to make sure that you got your jacks down and you got the weight off the tires, right? As much of the weight off as practical, because that will prevent flat spots from building, building up on the tire. In fact, when I took the Camp Freightliner class, and what Camp Freightliner is that it is a class offered by Freightliner. Spartan has a very similar class, by the way, offered by the chassis manufacturers on best practices, how to maintain your chassis, all those sorts of things, right? And the guy that taught that specifically said, do not park on wood, because the wood will actually wick out the oils from the tires and cause them to degrade. So take that for what it's worth. Secondhand information. But no, parking on gravel is just fine. Like I say, just make sure you got your jacks down far enough that you're not that most of the weight's off the tires. Of course, you want them on the ground, but just get most of the weight off the tires. That'll prevent flat spots on them. Robert Black, 1911 says, my solar stops charging at 41 degrees to not harm the lithium battery. I turned off the factory converter charger since it's not temperature aware. Is that the right thing to do? What batteries do you have, Robert? Most of the modern lithium batteries have their own BMS built into them. And 41 is pretty high. I know Battleborns, you stop charging, I don't remember the exact numbers, but you have to stop charging them when they get down to 20 and they stop delivering power at 0, something like that. But yeah, what kind of battery is that, Robert? Tom Downey. When it is really freezing, I remove the filter, blow the system out, and fill it with antifreeze, then blow the antifreeze through the system. That's a good one. That would work very well, Tom. Yes, that is a good way to use air to help push that antifreeze through the system. So what you're saying is that you put the antifreeze in the bubble, in the bowl, in the filter bowl, and then you blow air through the antifreeze, or I'll get it out yet. You blow air into the system, which blows the antifreeze out of the bowl, out of the what they call it, the glass bulb, which is actually just where the filter sits, and that pushes it into the water system. That might work really well. Linda Campgoer 1 says, "What's better to park on the dirt, concrete, or rock?" Well, concrete, I've heard, can also wick the materials. Well, it's the silicone, it's the compounds that make rubber flexible. Oh my gosh, Gracie, Seeking Adventures, thank you very much for your super chat. I am humbled and very appreciative. And she says, I'll get back to you, Linda. She says, Hood River, they're in Hood River, Oregon. Awesome. 31 degrees average in December at night. Okay, don't sweat winterizing too much. Okay, you're probably going to be just fine. But let's go look for a winterization kit for you. We'll do that right at the end of the stream tonight. But 31, 29, 28. At night, that's probably not, if it was 10, 5, that kind of temperatures like you might see here in Pocatello, I would be a little bit more worried. But yeah, I think you're probably okay. But let's look and see what we could find. I know they weren't terribly expensive. Thanks, GrooveJet. Yeah, he says, yeah, I watch both Bill Clive and Dave from EEV Blog. Yeah, thank you, EEV Blog. It's a small world. Yeah, both those guys are really bright. I like Dave from EEV Blog. He's a pretty funny guy. And did you see his response to the Vertasium electricity doesn't travel on wires crap thing? I don't know. I haven't got to watch all that. I've been busy doing other stuff. But I put him on my watch list to watch later. Tom Downey says, I built 2 truck campers, easier than restoring. He also says, Spartan chassis won't allow rear wheels to be off the weights. Well, I mean, if you got a jack system, it's got to allow you to jack it up, and so it's going to take off a lot of the weight. I'm not saying take off all the weight. No. But just get as much of the weight off of the tires as practical, without them leaving the ground, basically. That's what you're saying, is Spartan won't let you take that off. And if that's really the way Spartan built runs, I wouldn't buy a Spartan chassis. Sorry, I'm just giving you a heartburn, just because I can. But yeah, you need to get that weight off those wheels. Otherwise, you're going to have hell of bad flat spots when you go back to getting that thing in the spring. Okay, Robert Black says, mine does not have a cold temp in the BMS. High temp, yes, no cold. Manufacturer confirmed. CHIN battery. Okay. So yeah, let me go back to this. Solar stops charging. Yeah, 41. Well, it's going to be specific to the battery. So whatever the battery manufacturer says as far as how far, when you have to stop charging, I think on Battleborns, I'm almost positive on the Battleborns, it's like 20 degrees, 25 degrees, something like that. And just 1 minute here and I'll tell you. I'm going to look it up real quick because now I'm curious. But hang on here. Oh, they're going to make it too hard for me to find fast. Sorry about that. Maybe it's there. Okay, so Battleborn, their operating temperature range is -4 to 135. The BMS stops charging at 20. You can get the battery to deliver energy down to -4, but it will not charge below 20. So this is going to be specific to your manufacturer, Robert. Whatever they say that the low charge point cutoff is, low temperature charge point, I should call it, then that's what you want to go to. 41 is probably fine, but it's pretty high. I mean, you should be able to get pretty close to 30, 32, I would think, with most batteries before you need to start worrying about it too much. But yeah, that seems pretty high, Robert. Tom Downey, I actually helped my dad build a truck camper. Oh gosh, clear back in the late 60s, early 70s. And yeah, it was fun. In fact, I wouldn't call it a truck camper, but I built several shells for pickups that I had in the past. Just out of plywood and 2x4s and stuff like that. Tom Downey says concrete is the best to park on. Yeah, I think concrete, rocks, anything like that, asphalt, it's fine. But don't park on a piece of plywood. Park on plastic blocks, I should say. Plastic blocks is fine. Stuff like that. That's just fine. Two Feathers says, I was cleaning the battery cables on my RV and saw a worn spot on the black wire leading to the battery. It was rubbed raw by the red wire. I taped it up with electrical tape. Is that sufficient? Yes. Just keep an eye on it, but that's just fine. You should be just fine with electrical tape. You might also consider, if you can, securing the cables to stop them from rubbing with a zip tie. So just taking like the red cable or black cable or whatever, and if there's some place, excuse me, that you can zip tie it to hold them apart or to keep them from rubbing together, that's a good thing too. But yeah, that is more than enough. Robert Black says, this is relating to his lithium battery charging deal that we're talking about here. Caution, it got to below 10 degrees for a week here in Texas last winter. True. Caused a lot of heartburn and trouble, didn't it? Spartan, no air. The brakes are on the rear wheels only. Oh, an older Spartan chassis, right? Okay. Sorry, I don't want to brutalize your name, but Lajal? Hi. Bedroom slide issue in fifth wheel. Will slide in but not out. No issues with the other two slides. Will slide in but not out. I would look and see if you have something like caught underneath the slide that might be, causing trouble. I would look into on those slides, there's rails, okay? Some of these slide systems are hydraulic and some of them are mechanical. But there's a rail that the slide runs on back and forth. And you could do a little silicone. Do not use an oil, a grease, but you can do a little silicone on those slide points. That might help. But it goes in but not out. That could be a problem. I should ask, do you know if the slides are hydraulic or are they mechanical? Now, I know like on my Newmar, they were mechanical, which are far more reliable, a lot less moving parts. But yeah, let me know on that. Campgoer 1 says, TR, I picked up a Sun Gold Power 130 solar panel on Amazon to charge my under-the-hood coach battery. but I don't think the cables are long enough. You can make them longer. That's not a problem. Not a problem at all. 130, I'm assuming that's 130 watts at 12 volts is 6 amps. That's not a lot of amperage. And since you're just, but that's kind of big for a chassis battery maintainer. 130, SunGold Power 130. I'm assuming it's 130 watts. Your typical chassis battery maintainer is usually between 10 and 20 watts. But yeah, you can make the wires longer. That's not a problem. Use number 14 or number 12 wire. And don't go crazy. I mean, don't go 100 feet. But if you know, if you need to go 6, 10 feet, something like that, use the same gauge wire that's on there now, and that's probably going to be 14 or 12 gauge wire, and you can just extend the wires with that, no problem. Yeah, driveway crushed stone, half minus. Yeah, parking on rocks, any kind of inert material is just fine. Linda Campgoer 1, she says, it has those alligator clips. Someone told me that those cause a fire. What else can I use? Somebody that knows what the hell they're talking about. An alligator clamp has been used for millennia in electrics and electronics. It's not going to cause a fire. Okay? As long as you got it connected well, so when you put it on there, rock it back and forth and make sure it's nice and tight, and then forget about it and tell the person who told you that's going to cause a fire. That's no, I don't think so. That's a good one, Robert. Robert Black says red battery cable rubbing raw is a cause for a fire. Rubber hose between them. Yeah, I've actually seen people do that, but the best way to do that, back to Two Feathers' comment, is wrapping with electrical tape's fine, but try to secure that cable. Try to separate those cables so they're not rubbing together. You could take a piece of old rubber hose and split it down the middle and run it over the outside of one of your cables, and that will help. That'll give you more, rub resistance, if you will. But yeah, I would try to secure that cable as best I can. But that's a good point, Robert, and a good idea. Tom Downey, switch is faulty. And that's a good point too, Tom, that it could be your switch. Gosh, I'm sorry. Lodule, they're mechanical. Okay, that's good. And that Tom has a good point, that the switch could be bad. So those are called momentary switches. They're really fairly inexpensive, and you should be able to get one on Amazon or at RecPro or someplace like that, some good RV supplier. If you're handy with a meter, you can test the continuity on it. Pretty simply with a meter. I don't have one here. But yeah, so you might have a bad switch. That's a good call, Tom. Thanks. That's why I love having this community together, because there's a bunch of smart people out there. And sometimes it's hard to think of all the right answers on the fly. Yep, good one, Robert. Robert has offered some advice there on the slide problem. He says if the motor does not make a noise, it could be the switch, or electrical problem if electric. Yeah, it could be something as easy as a wire could have fallen off the back of the switch. I've had that happen on mine. One time, when I first got my RV, gosh, clear back in the dark ages, my living room slide wouldn't come in. And what had happened was one of the wires had fallen, the wire had fallen off the switch. And of course, obviously, it's not going to close if the wire's fallen off the switch. So yeah, I would start by removing that switch carefully, making sure the wires are still connected well. You can check the continuity on it with a meter. and or you could just you could try to replace a switch. It's probably a $6 or $7 part. They're not really expensive. And you're welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you for watching. Matt Steffen. Suggestion for a battery charger maintainer for a camp trailer battery. Going to be pulling it for the winter. Really enjoy my channel. Thank you, Matt. Sorry. Yes, I just bought one because I took the batteries out of Rusty. Rusty's my Newmar that's now actually belongs to Richard, who's on the channel here. He bought my Newmar. But I actually bought the Victron. I bought the Victron, and I'm really happy with it. It was a little expensive, but any good battery maintainer that provides 5 amps or so, if it's sitting in the garage or whatever, and in fact, as long as it's not out in the freezing cold, or you put it in the garage, you really don't need a battery maintainer on it all the time. If you have a battery charger, just go charge it up about once a month. Just go put it on the charger for as long as it takes to top it off, and don't waste your money on a battery maintainer. But any battery charger would be fine. Schaefer battery chargers are readily available in many places. Most of your parts stores and that kind of stuff, you might pay $30, $35, $40 for it. But the thing about a battery charger is that you could charge other batteries with it too. And I mean charge batteries rather than just maintain them. So yeah, that's any good battery charger is just fine. You don't need to leave it on the charger as a maintainer, especially like if they're in out of the cold. It sounds like they are. I would get just a good quality battery charger, and then I would just charge it up once a month, every 6 weeks, something like that. Go out, pop the clips on it, let it charge up, and you'll be fine. That battery will last a long time if you do that. Linda asks for some assistance with the Sun Gold Power. Exactly what wire size? Okay, I will do that. Now give me just a moment here. Should we give condo what? Condo what the hell? What are you talking about, Tom? Richard. Okay, Campground 1. No, I have the 3-way fridge in my RV. How many batteries and solar panels watts would I need to run it? I'd need to know your fridge, how much it pulls. There's a number of other questions that we'd have to work through offline to find out, your lifestyle and what kind of power you need. But we could do that, Linda, if you want to kick me an email with the fridge, your model number, and then we'll kick back and forth a couple of emails, and I'll get some numbers from you, and then I'd be happy to. I've helped several people design solar systems. That's not terribly difficult. You're welcome, Matt. I'm happy to help. John Besmick says, what could cause an inverter to put out only 98 volts when coach batteries are fully charged? A bad voltage regulator. Period. Somebody correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that's a bad voltage regulator. Provided that your battery terminals are all clean, that all that's taken care of, that you're in good maintenance, that's a voltage regulator. Two Feathers asks, does plugging into shore power charge the house batteries? Yes, in most cases. If you have an inverter charger, yes, it will charge your house batteries. You would need to let me know what brand and model of inverter you have, and then I'd be happy to look that up for you. But yes, if it's an inverter charger, it will um, charge your house batteries. So Tom, how many whiskeys have you had tonight? He says, so I can't type. All right. Well, we're pretty much getting close to the end here. I promised to look up the pump kit. So let's see what we got here. I'll take you over here to the other monitor. Just a moment. Let me do a quick scene transition. All right, so you should be seeing my screen now. And on Amazon, here's the pump converter for your winterizing. Okay. And so this is really simple to install. This goes in line with your pump. You can see a picture of it right there. And this hose here that you see wound up, okay, let me get off that. Let me pop this open full size. There we go. So this hose you stick down in your antifreeze. Okay, you can kind of see a picture here. It's kind of hinky. But so that goes in line with your water line. There's the connector you need for it. A little bit of Teflon tape. Then this is the pickup hose for the antifreeze or whatever. And this will set it up so that your pump will pump the antifreeze through your water lines. And now let's look for, let's see, RV water heater bypass. And there it is right there. Okay, and so see how easy this is. This is plug and play too. Nothing special about it at all. All you need really is probably a pair of pliers. But here's your water heater, and you put a bypass valve here, this hose here, and this one here. The cold water comes in right through there. The hot water goes out. When you want to bypass it, you flip this valve here, and that allows the cold water to go around and go straight out the hot side, and it never fills the water heater. Okay, so really simple and easy to install. I'm going to do this right now and add this over here to my Amazon store, handy items for RV owners. Oh no, sorry. Oh, there we are, RV winterization supplies. Let's put that one on there too. And so if you'd like, you can go over to, where's it at? Sorry. Well, that's just the end of the stream, so you have to sit there and be a little bored. And now let's go see what's on that page. Oh, that's not what I want. That's actually, that's the list for my truck camper renovation that I'm building. Let's go here. And there we go. So, oh, look at that. I had one on there. It's cheaper. It's no, that's not for winterization. There we go. Okay, so that's for your pump, and that's actually less expensive than the one I showed you earlier. So that's $16 for that one. This one was $35, so forget that one. This is the one you want right here. Okay, Gracie? And then this one over here for the water heater kit, water heater bypass. And I've put them on my store, so you should be good to go. And thank you very much. If you support the channel through Amazon, you pay the exact same price. I get a really small commission, and every little bit helps. And so I thank you, everybody, one and all, who do support the channel through my Amazon store. I forgot to do my cheap plug. Be sure and like the video. Give me that thumbs up. Those are always greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you're notified when new videos go up. Lots of videos to come this winter. I've got lots of work to do on the truck camper, plus lots of work to do on Rusty, the old Newmar, before he goes to his new owner come spring. So I'll have lots of stuff going on. Visit my website, trbolin.com, for more great RVing content. And have I forgotten anything? I don't know. All right, we'll go through the questions one more time here. Anybody else that would like to chime in, ask a question, make a comment, I'm happy to chat. We're holding on to viewers pretty good. It looks like there's 25 or so watching. That's fine for an hour and 15 minutes into it. You know, I think it takes time for people to catch up from the notifications. Good night, John. Have a great evening. Two Feathers says, I don't think I have an inverter. If I do, I don't know where it is. Okay, Two Feathers. Let's work on that. See what we can figure out. Let me do a little research. You have is it 98 Itasca? What was that one? I'll do a little research on it. I'm assuming it's probably all stock. Good night, Richard. Or good morning. Good night, Groove Jet. Nice to have you here. Good night, Randy. Awesome to have you in here. Gracie Seeking Adventures, thank you. You're very welcome. Bob Davis, thanks again for another good session. Even if I don't have a question, I always come away with some knowledge. Parking on wood, who would have thunk? Yep. Thanks, Bob. Nice to have you in. Two Feathers, I'm going to do a little research and see. I'm assuming that your rig is 100% stock, and it may not have an inverter charger. Can you use 110 power when you're not plugged into the pedestal if you're in a campground? If you're just out boondocking, do you have any 110 power, or is it all 12 volt? That will tell me right now if you have an inverter. You may not. Good night, Robert. Great to have you in tonight. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Robert. Yes, I actually have a Victron page on my Amazon store, specifically around Victron parts. I helped a couple people put together Victron systems, and so I built a special page so they could go buy the parts through that page. And yeah, every little bit helps, and especially something like the Victron stuff, because that stuff's expensive. But again, you paid the exact same price, and 2008 Winnebago. Okay, Two Feathers, thanks. So you have no 110 power if you're not plugged in. Good night, Linda. I will look that up. I'll have just a moment here. I'm going to shut things down, but I'll stay on the stream. And if you'll hang with me for just a couple more minutes, Linda, I'll go get you that wire size. Fighting in flip-flops, going to my Amazon shop right now. Thank you very much. Mac, Stefan, a little off topic. That's fine. Is that a shortwave radio on the shelf? That one? Yes, that's a shortwave transceiver. That is a Yaesu FT101EE. And yeah, I did some horse trading for it, and it's a long story. But yeah, I'm going to get my technician's license as soon as I get 5 minutes to sit down and go through the book one more time. I've taken the online tests and consistently passing them, so I'm going to probably get my tech license, and then maybe go through my amateur general, and so I can work the other bands. But yeah, it's a radio, and it's a lot of fun. I listen. I have a long wire, well, sort of a long wire out in the back here. Two Feathers says, lithium batteries, no power when not plugged in. Okay, yeah, you probably don't have an inverter. Just solar and generator powered when boondocking. Got it. Okay, so I think right now we'll call this good for tonight. Those that would like to stick around, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to help Linda get the correct wires to extend the cables on her solar panel. And then she has one more question. What do I think of those little heat activated fans that could be put over a buddy heater to disperse the heat. Well, I think they're fine. I mean, they run on what they call the Stirling engine. Uh, I had one. I had a wood stove in a house I had many years ago that ran on what's called a Stirling engine. They run on air basically, but yeah, they're fine. I think they're just fine. The little buddy heaters are actually pretty good, and anything you can do to help move that heat around is going to be very helpful. Yeah, fans work well, exactly. Matt, Stefan, thank you so much for the super chat. I do greatly appreciate that. Okay, everybody, I'm going to sign off, but you can stay with me while we go work on Linda's little problem. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday. Until then, peace. Okay, well, Linda, give me just a second here. I'll flip over here so I can make sure that I'm getting the right part. That was the Sun Gold. What was that? Sun Gold. I've got to go back in the comments here and find it. Sorry. Give me just a second. Sun Gold Power 130 watt. Oh, come on. Get over here. Okay, so it looks like this one, Linda, the suitcase one. Let me get back over here in the comments so I can follow. Good night, Matt. Thanks again very much. Hopefully you're still here. So I'm assuming it's this one. 7.56 amps, 12 volts. That must be a misprint because it says 130 here, but it says the maximum power is 65. That's weird. 7.56 amps. Approximately how long do you need to extend the wires? Okay. And I'm going to go over here to the wire chart. And let's see here. Capacity charts. All right, 15. Okay, so 14 should be fine, Linda. 14 gauge wire will be more than enough. That's double what you need. That's more than enough, provided you're under about 20 feet. So if it's less than 20 feet, 14 gauge wire will be just fine for extending the cables on that output adapter. And you said it's got those clamps on it. 27 pounds, yeah. So anyway, that should get you there. 14 gauge wire should be more than adequate to extend that, to lengthen the cables on that. And what I would do is just cut off the alligator part and give yourself about 6 inches of wire, and then splice it into the cable, and then you could put the alligator clip on the other end. So you're just going to splice in however long you need, and that way you won't have to do any soldering or anything like that. You can just use wire nuts or something like that to extend that cable out, and just, that way you can just reuse the alligator clip. But yeah, that should get you there. Okay, so those of you that just tuning in and bouncing around, I was just helping out one of our viewers. Yes, I would put some in my Amazon store, Linda. Thank you. I will do that right now. Give me just a minute to sign off for those that might be popping in late. Okay, so we're going to call that one good. Thank you so much, everybody, and good night. We'll see you guys next week. Bye. Peace.